episode 5 of FemGineer Chats. And if you haven't seen the post already, so today I wanted to talk to you about the top 10 most sustainable companies globally. Just a little bit about the importance of their position in being one of the top 10 and really what they're doing to be there. And sort of before we get into it, I just wanted to sweep up some admin at the start. So previous episodes to FemGineer Chats will be uploaded to my YouTube channel. I will from now on make sure that I include a link to the YouTube channel along with my podcast channel. So you can feel free to catch the episodes there. And it'll essentially be from now on one episode behind that will get uploaded on the Wednesday when I go live. So today going live for episode 5. YouTube channel is up to date up until episode 4. So yeah, be sure to catch the previous episodes if there is a topic of interest for you. So what I wanted to chat to you today about is, as I said, the top 10 businesses. I did forget one thing. I'm just going to post a link to my masterclass that I am hosting tomorrow. So if you are interested and you've missed that, be sure to check out the link. It's going to be covering eco-business health checks. And if your business could benefit from something like that to understand where they are in their sustainability journey, feel free to join that masterclass. It is a free masterclass and I promise to make it jam-packed with value. So I think now we can get into it. I think to kind of preface this conversation, we really need to start by talking about, well, we don't need to, but I think that it's important to start talking about global crisis. And the global crisis that we are in now is such a relevant time for this to be part of the conversation. And the reason that it's important is we've experienced financial and global crisis for various reasons, probably most frequently over the last 20 years. And oftentimes when we're going through a global crisis, environmental issues around resource availability and food stability or energy security, whatever it may be, they often take a backseat when we're going through a financial crisis. And that seems intuitive at the time because you want to fix the problem at hand. But really, I think the problem is that we don't really look at the source of these issues, these crises that we experience, and considering environmental sustainability while responding to a global crisis is probably the most important time to consider environmental sustainability, because what a lot of sort of research and trends have seen is there's remarkable overlap, interconnections between a global financial crisis that's happening on one hand and when there's environmental issues occurring on another hand. And they're so deeply intertwined, you can't continue to have economic growth, of course, without a stable and healthy environment. So that's why I think that, they're super important. And now, especially while we're going through the pandemic, it is being seen very clearly that responding to the environmental issues while we respond to the pandemic is probably one of the most important things, and the most progressive and companies that are placed right at the front of their competitive industries are really talking about this at the forefront. And so, we've gone through various crises. I was going to list a couple down, but I think, we all remember the dot-com bubble when in 2000 we all thought that, computers were going to take over our lives. And thankfully that didn't happen. If anything, they've done a lot of good for the world. The September 11 attacks, really unfortunate time, a global atrocity that we all went through together. And then, of course, there's the GFC, and now, the pandemic. And there's been plenty of issues in between. But I think the idea is that the businesses and the economy, so the governments that actually made it through these crises and actually did better coming out of it, were the ones that were ready to destroy and innovate. And I really love using this term. It's a term that I got from a book I read called Reimagine. And I think it's just a really great term that we all kind of need to think about. And when I say destroy and innovate, the companies that did this, they're the ones that they didn't just haphazardly, get rid of everything that they were currently doing. It was really about destroying old cultures and old ways of doing things that weren't working well for the companies and weren't working well for the government systems. And so they're the ones that really redefine their relationships with their employees, with their communities, with their clients. And really that's what led to the businesses that are most innovative. And to kind of go through who are these top 10 companies, what I did to come up with this list, well, it's not exactly my list, it's lists that have been compiled across various different sources, just to see out there from reputable journals who are the most sustainable companies and why are they sustainable, what keeps them progressive, and what keeps them at the forefront of their industries. And probably one of the common things is that these companies, they don't just, so with that, that destroy and innovate term, they don't just drop large cannonballs of new ideas. Destroying and innovating is also about dropping strategic bullets. And this metaphor is from another book I read. But the idea here is they test the waters, they see what really works for their businesses, and they're ready when crises hit, or crises, is that a word? Crises hit. They're ready to respond. And that's when they drop their cannonballs, the cannonballs of change that are really going to take their business up to the next level. And that's what keeps them really innovative, at the forefront of their markets, and positions them at the top of these lists. So this is why these 10 companies are considered to be the top 10 most sustainable. And so I'll just tell you the list from 10 to 1. So 10, we've got the Canadian National Railway. They're considered to be 77.1% sustainable, along with American Waterworks Company, who are number 9, but also 77.1% sustainable. Metso Autotech, who are 78.4% sustainable. Kering, they're a French company, and they are 78.4% sustainable. McCormick and Company are 79.3% sustainable. Stantec, some of you may know, I actually worked at Stantec. So Stantec Canada in particular are considered 80.5% sustainable. Nest is considered 80.7% sustainable. Banco do Brasil is 81.7% sustainable. Orsted is 82.7% sustainable. And in the number 1 position is Schneider Electric, who are 83.2% sustainable. And so the sustainability metrics are based on the KPIs so probably the core journal that really pull together these companies and these percentages is, oh gosh, now I've just lost their name. Give me a second. It was at the top of my mind. Corporate Knights. So this journal came up with the global 100 companies that are most sustainable, and these ended up being in the top 10 positions. And they based it on a range of metrics, but at the core of it, we're looking at how much they're reducing their environmental impact through water security, energy security, food scarcity issues, biodiversity loss, accounting for natural capital, obviously greenhouse gas emissions, circular product lines and supply chains. So they're probably at the core of what they were really looking at to define these companies. And so there are different things that each company is doing, and I'll just sort of touch quickly on what some of them are doing. So number 10, Canadian National Railway, they are aligning very officially to, and when I say very officially, that's probably not the right term, but they've officially aligned to the National Global Compact and the UN SDGs and committed to leading the zero emissions economy. And they're a railway company. And then you've got American Water, who are a water wastewater utility company. And they have actually intertwined their corporate sustainability performance metrics into their employees' financial management. So an employee doesn't meet those metrics, they don't get their bonus, for example. So it's directly intertwined with performance, which is wonderful. We've got Mezzo Urotech. I'm so sorry if I butcher these names. I'm doing my best. But what they do is they provide services for aggregates, mineral processing, recycling. And so what they've done is established a program called Planet Positive. And this is actually not just about their business. They've actually done something that's quite collaborative with their customers, clients, communities, committing to the 1.5 degree scenario of global warming. And essentially, they are developing a sustainability portfolio that makes sure that the business is moving towards that 1.5 degree scenario. And then after that, we have Caring. So what Caring have done is actually created or set up a regenerative fund. And so Caring, if you don't know, they own various fashion brands. And so what they've decided to do is transform 1 million hectares of farmland, which produces the raw materials for various fashion supply chains. So they're really supporting regenerative agriculture and reducing their environmental footprint by doing so. So their aim is to reduce their environmental footprint by around 40% by 2025. So pretty huge steps that they are taking to do that. And then McCormick, who a lot of you would have bought their curry powder or their Old Bay seasoning. So, everybody knows McCormick, huge company, and what they've committed to is 100% circular packaging. And a big part of their sustainability program is about employee health and well-being, which, a lot of businesses do. But I think the difference here is they're doing it quite directly connected to the words and the policies they make. Their actions are directly aligned, and there's very clear KPIs in place to ensure that they've done it and done it successfully. And then Stantec, my previous employer, they were they were classed under a classification. It's a technical classification by a project called the Carbon Disclosure Project. So they got a classification of A, which is the top most classification. And they received that 3 years in a row, along with them having a very clean revenue and investment portfolio. That's what's gotten them to position number 5 in this list. And then we have Nest, who is, and sorry, I should add, Stantec is a consulting and design firm. So again, a very different company that's on this list. And then we have Nest, who, along with, I'm going to bring Schneider Electric into this, who are in the number 1 position. So Nest and Schneider, actually, I take that back. It's Nest and Ørsted, who are both oil companies, 2 different places in the world. Nest is in Finland, Ørsted in Denmark. Both oil companies, both shifted dramatically in their solutions towards renewables, focusing on green energy and the transition towards green energy, focusing on circular solutions. So they obviously are focused in different areas of their economies, but the idea here is they're both oil companies and did a huge pivot towards green renewable solutions. And then in the number 3 position, Banco do Brasil, who are actually a bank, a global bank. And what they did was redesign their products and looked at how they can participate more in sustainable markets. So they are currently embarking on a huge investment, so $51.19 billion on the green economy, which is low carbon, resource efficiency, energy efficiency, food scarcity, all of those things that are really important to consider in terms of being sustainable. And what's really interesting for those in Australia is that if you consider sustainable banks, it is really important to pick a bank that is being sustainable. And few that I can kind of name at the top of my head is Bank Australia or Bendigo Bank. I know NAB are doing a lot as well in the space towards prosperous sustainability. So yeah, which bank that you choose to bank with is also really important in terms of sustainability, because even they have a huge impact on the environment through the way that they invest their money and the products they supply and how they regenerate their revenue through investments. So yeah, I think because I coupled Schneider with Nest, I've already covered them off. So I'll just go to number 2, which is Orsted. Oh, sorry, no, I'm getting them mixed up again. I covered Orsted already with Nest, the 2 oil companies. And finally, in the number 1 position, we have Schneider Electric. And so what they did was they really focused in on digital transformation and renewables. So they actually did something incredible because the company that came up with this list, Corporate Knights, they were actually sitting at the 29th position on this list the year before, and they jumped up to number 1. So what they did was pivoted in a huge way in terms of developing data centers and data storage, building in distributed energy networks, and coming up with some highly advanced solutions in the digital energy efficiency space and renewable space. So yeah, they made huge changes, and the numbers are huge in terms of 70% revenue from these sustainable solutions, and 73% is their investment back towards these sustainability solutions. So there's a huge kind of circularity as well to the way that they are doing business, and clearly it's paying off. They've managed to bump themselves right up to the number 1 spot. And 29 is damn good, but being number 1, what an amazing achievement. So yeah, Schneider Electric takes the top spot precisely because of that. And so what's super interesting about these 10 companies, what I feel is interesting, is each of them are in a very different industry. And yet each of them have managed to consider holistic sustainability through their solutions. So their solutions are not just directed at their business doing well and making money. It's actually because sustainability is lucrative. It does make money, but they're very much considered the environment, but also the communities that they work with, and even their overlapping competitors. So if it's a combined supply chain, they've managed to look at that. Like, for example, Caring, who managed to look at regenerative farming that would also help their competitors. And so that's I think what is probably most interesting about this list of top 10 most sustainable businesses. And so I just wanted to say that, end off with the fact that in a crisis, I think, coming back to that point, it's most important to remember the environment, because as I said before, economic prosperity cannot continue. And I don't just mean this on a fundamentally moral level, but also just from a purely technical standpoint. You can't persist with economic growth without a stable, healthy, peaceful, natural environment. So it's really time for businesses to start seeing the economic benefits of sustainability, because we've got these billion-dollar revenue companies that are showing that by being sustainable and pivoting in dramatic ways, they're still managing to turn over huge amounts of money, and rightly so, because they are doing the right thing. So you know what? The abundance and money should absolutely flow over to them. So I think it's time for those businesses that have not been thinking about sustainability yet, or have been putting it on the back burner, to really start stepping up. Because when we actually look at, and I was going to share this with you, but I might just tell you verbally, there's a map of the 100 most sustainable companies, and Europe, North America, Asia probably have the highest numbers. Europe obviously has 46, or not obviously, but Europe has 46 companies, North America 33, Asia 16. So all pretty high numbers. But then we've got South America, Africa, and Australia. And what's kind of really sad to see here is South America and Africa, being developing countries, have 2 and 1 companies that are in this list respectively, and Australia has 2. So it's time, Australia, we need to step up. It is really time for us to put ourselves on the map, quite metaphorically, in terms of this global listing process. We need to be up there with our numbers. And so yeah, it's really time to step up, I think. And yeah, I think that's where I want to really end it. I mean, I don't know. Oh, wait, we've got I'm so sorry, Hamish. You had a question here. So well, actually a statement more so. The Dow Jones Sustainability Index is a very good way of looking at leaders in the sustainability world. So we can consider global scan leaders and reports as well. So yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the Dow Jones Index is a probably one of the most well-known indices to define that. So yeah, really great way to know where your business is at, and I think I've mentioned it in past presentations as well as the UN SDGs, of course, and there's also the National Global Compact and the Global Reporting Initiative. These are all some of the most well-known ways of businesses introducing or embedding sustainability metrics into the way that they operate, and no longer just having policies and governance that just talks the talk, or actually having aligned action. So yeah, thank you everybody for joining, and thanks Hamish for your input. I appreciate it. I hope you're all having a wonderful week and have a great week ahead. And will join me potentially tomorrow at 6 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time for my first webinar, which I am nervous and excited about. And yeah, as you can tell, I'm nervous. But yeah, hope you join me, because it's going to be a time for questions as well at the end of that webinar, and I really want to make it quite interactive with the people that are there. And so if you're there, you're going to get your questions in, and I will do my best to answer. And yeah, just really excited to interact with all of you on probably a more personal level, I guess. So yeah, thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you all have an amazing evening or morning wherever you are. And yeah, take care. And until next week on FemGineer Chats, I will talk to you soon. Bye.